Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How are you feeling? How are you doing? Good. Glad to see smiling faces after our obligated work hours. So that speaks that we're all committed to high performance, right? Yes, but we definitely want to thank you all for being here and available to engage in a conversation regarding impact. That's the premise of our entire conversation. What instructional approaches or strategies we're using and what impact are they having on our student learning. I would like to emphasize that this conversation is being extended to all stakeholders. So even though today is teacher impact conversations, last night we were meeting with teachers, couple of weeks before we met with community members, business community, the faith-based community, so we all have ownership in ensuring our students are learning and progressing. But as teachers, we spend more time with them, correct? It's second to their parents. But their awake hours, we really spend a lot of time with them. So during that time, we want to make sure that we're being very intentional with the practices that we're implementing, the ones that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. So tonight is all about teacher impact. So our purpose is first, Dr. Beasley is going to share with us the desired outcomes for our students when they leave our school system, go out to college, the work field, and then discuss the current achievement level data as evidenced by our Georgia milestones and our advanced placement. So many times we may look only at our grade level or course data or school data, but we want to share with you elementary data, middle school, and high school so that we can see how it connects, the continuum of learning. And then finally, we'll discuss the instructional practices, some of them that have a greater impact on student learning. And then Dr. Beasley will share with you an Excel that he's providing where you can begin to measure your own impact based on your instructional approaches. Okay, sounds good? Okay, thank you. So at this time, let's welcome our superintendent, Dr. Beasley.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Well, welcome you all. I know I'm honored that you would even come at 5:30? 5:30 after you've dealt with secondary students. How many of you in middle school? Middle school, bless your heart. Bless your heart. High school? All right. Well, thank you all for coming, and we promise we'll respect your time. But as Dr. Lee shared, we're here to talk about impact. And that's why it's a teacher impact, because we really just want to talk to teachers. Because clearly, as a teacher, you have the greatest impact on the learning outcomes of our students. So very quickly, what I'd like us to do is, why are we here? Hopefully by now you've heard about our vision. You should know this. This information has been widely shared and communicated. I'm sure your principals have shared it as well. But just for the benefit of all, our vision is to be a high-performing school district, period. And we know that in order to be a high-performing school district, there are certain things that have to occur, and those things have to occur rather consistently. And so it's just not a model or an expression, but it's really something that we're working toward. That means we got to know where we are, we got to know where we'd like to go, and we got to make sure we're using the right strategy in order to what? In order to get there. Our mission is what we do day to day. That's the daily work, that daily grind, every day, dealing with students, dealing with schools, trying to make sure that they are empowered to achieve their academic and personal goals. And some days are better than others, but at the end of the day, or the end of the semester, or the end of the year, we want to know and we want those students to believe that they've met their academic and personal goals. As any organization should be, what we do is have a core set of beliefs, and our actions should be grounded in our beliefs. And if you have looked at our belief statement, our value statements, they're all about our children. Everything that we do should be about our children. These beliefs guide our decisions. We believe that our children have a priority for all resources. So whenever we have to make tough budget decisions, and we did last year, but we try to minimize the negative impact that those decisions would have on our children. We believe that education is a shared responsibility. Yes, you have a role as a teacher, but we have a role, I have a role as a superintendent, the central office staff has a role, parents have a role, the community, everyone has a role. No one person No one person is fully responsible for this process. All of us, collectively, are responsible. We believe in communication and having an understanding. And so you'll see increased efforts to ensure that we communicate, consistently communicate, that we're clear, that we're concise, that the information is going to the groups that it needs to go to. We should really get to a point where we don't get complaints where parents and others are saying they didn't know. Right now, we're communicating on all platforms. We're sending information to parents via email. We're posting information on the social media websites, all of the platforms that we have. We're sending information to the advisory groups, and if the parents don't have an email or if they're not out on social media, if they have children in the school system, they should be checking grades, shouldn't they? So we post everything in Infinite what? Canvas. So no excuse. And I tell folks, if you don't have an email, it doesn't matter. You're checking grades. If you're not, shame on you as a parent. You should be. If you're checking grades, if you log into Infinite Campus, you'll see all the announcements as well. So no excuses for people not to know. Not unless they're just not reading or deleting the information before they read it. We want to also acknowledge that learning is a continuous process. It's continuous. And it's very productive when we are meeting the needs of our children through quality instruction. Quality instruction. And that's why this conversation is so important, because we have to be able to measure our impact, if you will, our effect on learning outcomes. And then, of course, we want to provide our students a positive learning environment where they feel like they're respected, that someone cares, they have dignity, that basically they're treated by us the way we want to be what? Treated. And that's just core values. Not too much to ask. And so as we make decisions, as we implement actions, we're trying to achieve the goals to the right of the screen. The first goal is relative to academic achievement. We're here because we want to see our students reading on or above grade level, doing math on or above grade level, but we want them prepared. We want them prepared to participate in post-secondary options. And today you're going to see the data, which basically shares our reality, but where we're trying to go. We want to make sure we provide a safe and orderly learning environment at every school, so you can teach, so kids can learn. It's very difficult to teach or learn when you don't feel safe, isn't it? You got to be safe. And then we want to create an environment that promotes active engagement among all the stakeholders. We want everybody at the table to be a part of the work. In whatever role you're in, we want you to have a voice at the table. We want to provide high-quality support services on time and within budget. And so you'll see, we've got to make sure that we support every student, that we're equitable, if you will, in our practices, that we provide every student what he or she needs to be successful, and we know we've got to do it within budget. We've got to be responsible with the taxpayers' dollars that are provided to us. And then lastly, we want to recruit, develop, and retain those who we hire. Highly qualified staff. What we've noticed is that we can recruit people. Our problem is retention. So what are we going to do to retain people? Retain. We want to retain the best teachers from year to year, so our students can get the benefit of experience and excellence. The strategic plan, if you've not read it, I encourage you to go out to the website. If you go to the website, on the left side of the website, there are a list of links. The one that says Advanced Ed Strategic Plan, just hit that link. It takes you straight to the strategic plan. It has all the steps that we're taking, and it has all the targets on eBoard, on balanced scorecard. It has all the targets, so you can see where we're trying to get to over a 5-year period. So we have a plan. We have clear actions. We know where we'd like to go. It's just a matter of us getting there. We're trying to establish some coherence, making sure that we're all on the same page, working toward the same goals, engaged in the same work in various roles, clearly, but engaged in the same work in order to build that momentum, in order to shift this district in the right direction. So at this time, I'm going to toss it to Dr. Simpson, the Deputy Superintendent of School Leadership, as he talks about a sense of urgency.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know it's late. I know it's late. I get it. It's late for us too. We worked last night too. So K2 sessions and 3-5 sessions, I talked about, I shared some personal examples about how the negative impact on not knowing and learning how to read in depth and the discipline. But I'm gonna take it a step further this time. It's a different rule. I'm gonna take it a step further in a little different direction and talk about the impact of writing. Just as much as reading, because yes, reading is certainly, I mean, we're at a point of urgency. But the other personal story, I mean, you don't know about this one, I've been holding this one back, so. The writing piece, so I never, because of the inability or the lack of, in terms of enjoying reading and becoming a disciplined reader, of course I didn't write on the other end. If you didn't read, then you don't write. So I stopped taking English in the 10th grade because I had taken all of my core subjects in summer school when it was an abbreviated schedule. So by the time I got to 10th grade, I had already completed all of my credits for math, science, English, and social studies. Listening to some idiot friend of mine said, man, why are you taking all those? You don't need to take the rest of those classes. You can graduate now. And without talking to a counselor, I stopped taking it. When I got to the SAT, of course it came back to hump me. That ended up in learning support, reading, but I was also in learning support English. Had to test out. So here's the crazy part. When the professor asked us to write, first day in this class, write a paragraph, tell a little bit something about yourself or all of that. I mean, I pulled out a pen and I hooked my little paragraph up and I threw a couple of commas here, semicolon, quotation marks, made it look real, real pretty. There was more red ink on the paper than the black ink that I wrote in. Why y'all laughing? I'm telling you the truth. This is the God honest truth. And so when I went up to meet with the professor, he said, son, I have some sad news for you. I said, what's that? He said, young man, you can't write. I said, I know that. I had never written a 5-paragraph essay. I had never even heard of it. I'd never heard of the 4 major errors. Comma, splash, runoffs. I never heard of, maybe they said it. I didn't catch it. I never asked them what it meant. So it became easy to learn how to write because I had never learned how to write. Formal English. I'm not talking about just writing, in a text in which I could communicate. But I had never written a 5-paragraph essay. So that was a struggle for me. However, that learning support helped me. I was in it for 2 quarters, and then I exited out of it, and I took English 101, and then I was able to be successful because I learned how to write there. Well, if you're in a school in the university system of Georgia, you have to take the work readers exam when you become a junior. 2 tests that you have to take: the reading comprehension, and you have to write an essay on a topic that they give you. I failed the reading, and I failed the writing. So then I went back into advanced learning support, my junior year. Now I'd already taken a year's worth of learning support in reading and English, my freshman year. My junior year, I went back into advanced learning support because I had failed 2 parts of the Regents. Took it again the next semester. I had to take the reading class again. I passed that the next quarter. But the English, I failed the topic twice. I failed the English part of the Regents twice. So therefore, I had to take the advanced learning support English 2 additional quarters. Why am I sharing this with you? Well, obviously, when I became a teacher, it was personal to me. As a 5th grade teacher, when I'm looking at these children, I had to share my experience. I shared my failures. I had to share what my struggle was, and I oftentimes talk to my students, even at the 5th grade, when you get to high school, when you get to college, this is what you're going to be expected to do. When I started teaching 8th grade social studies, I stressed the importance of reading in depth and being able to read 10, 15, 20 pages a night and writing. In my class, I stressed that because of my personal experience. It had nothing to do with the curriculum. It had nothing to do with the district initiative. So what I'm saying to you, when we talk about a sense of urgency, it's personal. We know as educators the impact it's going to have on a child's life. The lack thereof, if these children, if they don't master authentic literacy, they're not going to make it. So it's a moral responsibility for me. And when we talk about the impact, so Dr. Beasley is going to share later where you'll be able, some things where you'll be able to measure your impact. The impact that you're actually going to have or you're having on a child. And being able to measure that and what does that look like. That's critical. And yes, I wish it was thousands of people here. I'm sure they've had their own personal experiences. I'm not the only one out there. But they got to hear it. The children need to know it. And that is the sense of urgency or the state of urgency that we're in right now. We've got to make sure that they understand and know it and at least hear it. Because it was just as important then. But it didn't come across that way. We're in a totally different time. We're in a totally different time. So that's what I want. That's my message. Just make it personal. Make it personal. Share your story. Ask others to share their story, their narrative, their personal testimony. Make it personal. Whatever challenges that they had relative to the literacy, numeracy, that's important for them to share with those children because then they have a little bit something more invested. It means something when you can share it from your own personal testimony. So I just want to share that with you, and it just get us to get you to where we are, what we're thinking, and where we're going with this. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Beasley and Dr. Simpson, and sharing the personal story that is relevant to so many. And as secondary teachers, I was a former secondary teacher. We really inherit 11 years of what our students have experienced. So 11 to 12 years of everything that has occurred that has been helpful versus things that may not. But that still means we have to teach and develop. So we have two types of students. We have those who may be struggling readers. Well, actually three types. We have those who may be struggling to read, but also those that just don't want to. And then those that love it. So the love it, yes, whatever you put in front of those students, they're going to be able to read about it, talk about it, think about it. But then we have those ones that we have to really think about how to stimulate their interest. So they can read, and you'll see the data that I showed you. Most of our students can read grade level content. It may not feel that way, but we have students in our classrooms who are reading below grade level. And they need the additional support. And so let me just start by sharing with you our performance data and our goal. So as you begin to explore this strategic plan, and you may have already reviewed it, we have performance objectives. The first one, this is our first performance objective. Within 5 years, we want at least 80% of our students meeting or exceeding the standards based on the Georgia milestones. So it's not just about a test. The word readiness comes to mind. If students have not demonstrated mastery of the content, the knowledge needed, when they enter or go beyond our high school, we already know what awaits them. So they have to be knowledgeable. They have to have the skills. And so our goal is to have at minimum 80%. And so the principals, they've charted out, and hopefully they've shared it with you, what we need to make each year to be on track to be at 80%. So if they haven't shared it, be sure to engage in that dialogue and just ask, well, what are our goals for this year for the Georgia Milestones Assessment? But this is our current reality. About 1 in 4 across the board, across elementary, middle, and high, is on level 1 in 4 on average. So what that means is 3 out of 4 have not come to you with the prior year grade level mastery. So that is planning and preparation, and you cannot do it alone. I remember teaching English and wanting to do it alone, but it became so much more manageable with a circle of support. And so I'm sure you're planning your collaborative meetings, you're looking at the data, you're really working diligently to close the gaps. And while you're here hearing this, it's not just you, this is a collective conversation that we have to have. And so this is our current reality with 1 and 4. So let's start by looking at the Georgia Milestones data for elementary and middle school. And this particular table or chart allows us to answer 2 questions. How have our students performed the last 4 years on the Georgia Milestones? And then how do we compare with statewide performance as well as our Metro RESA districts, like our Metro Atlanta districts? And so we can see in the past year for language arts, we have language arts teachers, math teachers in here. Okay, so for language arts, for grades 3, 4, and 5, we had an increase, a slight decrease for 6 and 7, and we maintained for grade 8. But you'll notice in comparison to the metro area in the state, we lag behind. Our goal is to exceed. It is easier said than done. So that's why we really have to think about what are the decisions, the instructional practices we're using. But again, it's not just a teacher conversation. Remember, we're all in ownership of this, but we are responsible for the instructional part. And then for math, you will see that we've had increases in grades 3, 4, and 7, with sustaining in grade 5 and a slight dip in grade 6 and grade 8. So, and I just want to show science and social studies. So for science, we had an increase in 8th grade, a slight drop in grade 5, and then for social studies, increases for grade 5 and 8. So before I show high school, do you see that 1 and 4 pattern on average, 1 and 4? And again, that's why we want you all to be aware of the data beyond your school, beyond your grade level. And let's look at high school. For this past school year in comparison to 16-17, we showed growth or maintained in 6 out of the 8 tested courses. So you can see there, 9th grade lit went up, geometry, physical science, and economics. Now the conversation didn't just start with 6th grade up. Monday we met with a very critical group, the K2 teachers. They got to raise the bar. They got to teach the kids to read. That is most critical. And we gave them 2 terms, readiness and automaticity. Because by the time they get to secondary, we're really expecting them to be able to take notes as we're teaching, right? And be automatic with it. Be able to read the text that we're giving them, examine images, and do it with automaticity. And so when they're struggling, that's a barrier to the learning, okay? So after K2, we met with 3-5 before you all and had a similar conversation. But now we're talking with secondary, and this is really their last chance to get the skills needed for college and career readiness, to be productive citizens. And we all know the story of individuals when they do not leave with the skills needed. People already opt out of hard things. Most people opt out of hard stuff. We don't want our kids opting out because they don't have the skills needed. And so these data points just really allow us to see that when kids have it early, they tend to keep it. And it gives us something to build upon. But when they do not have it, that creates additional challenges in the classroom. So here are the reading data. So this chart basically says what percent of our students are reading on level. And that doesn't tell us that they're interested in reading, but it says what percent can read if given a grade level text based on the Georgia milestone. They receive a readability level. And so on average, over half of our kids can read grade level text and understand 75% of it. That's what Alexal measures. How many can understand 75% of the text? So there is a gap between reading performance and proficiency. So when we're measuring standard and content knowledge, we're seeing 1 out of 4. But when we're looking at reading levels, half of the kids, 2 out of 4, can read or more. And so that's why we have to think about how are we making sure that the standards, the level of the standard Our instruction and our instructional practices are aligned because the assessment is measuring the standard. And this is a glimpse at the writing data, and you'll receive this PowerPoint and everything that we share with you, even the Excel later, you'll get it in an email tomorrow. But you all, just to point out the writing data, I'm just going to start with grade 3. And on the Georgia milestones, on the language arts portion, starting in grade 3 through American Lit High School, they have to write essays. So they have to write on the math portion and the reading in the language arts portion. 5% of the third graders from this past school year, so they are current fourth graders, were able to demonstrate mastery of writing an essay. So Dr. Simpson alluded to the 5-paragraph essay. We don't quantify it, but they are supposed to be able to have a beginning, middle, and end. And it has to be based on evidence. So that's why we have an emphasis on evidence-based speaking and evidence-based writing. So again, we shared this with K2 teachers because we need kids writing early, reading and writing early, and beyond, we shared it. So that's just a glimpse. And then for your current 9th graders, 32% of the current 9th graders, so that's the 8th grade data, were able to formulate a text-based, evidence-based written response. 32%. So the writing skills are aligning pretty much to the proficiency skills. And maybe you've seen this, but if you haven't, it should build some understanding and maybe empathy for what our students are bringing to the classroom, but not sympathy, because we are elevating, we have high expectations, and we're teaching them, but it does let you know with some of them what gaps they may have. And that's why we have the readiness tools in the areas of literacy and numeracy, the reading and math classes like the Achieve 3000 and iReady, to assist us with closing those gaps, to get kids literate and numerate. But all teachers, from CTAE, science, historians, we all are responsible for making sure our students can access text in our class and, more importantly, produce and show and demonstrate learning. These are the advanced placement data, so the scores. These are the results for the past 4 years. And so what this table shows for each high school, as well as the district average, the national, and the global average, what percent of students are scoring at a 3 or higher. We know on the advanced placement exam, with their scores 1 to 5. So our students who take an AP course, they sit for an exam at the end. And most colleges, well, I can't say most, the kids have to check the college, but many colleges will accept a 3 for a related course. So essentially, when students are taking an advanced placement course, that is a college level course in terms of rigor and expectation. And so if you look at the system percent, the students who sat for the advanced placement, 19.4% had a 3 or above. That is a 3 percentage point increase. So, like we saw in the previous data, we are making incremental gains, but do we have a lot of work to do? Yes. Yes. Yes, and we can do it. We can do it. Because we are specialists. We've been trained. We've been trained to do this. And so, again, related to advanced placement, we've had an increase in the number of kids participating in dual enrollment. Over 700 more kids last year took college courses in high school. And so we're shifting. We're shifting. And as we all begin to elevate our expectations and practices and making them very targeted, we're going to definitely continue to see growth. And so this is just a quick image of what you all see every day. Kids on different levels, but they have to meet the same expectations and read the text. And so how many of you had the training in the rigor and relevance framework? Great. So we know that the standard provides the rigor. It tells us at what level students should be performing. But it has to be relevant. Students have to know, why does this matter? How can I use this language? And experience real life context and situations in the classroom. So what quadrant do we want our students operating in? D. And A and B and C are critical. They're important. Those are the fundamentals and being able to progress in their thinking. But quad D is life. Because Quad D requires that you can problem solve, you can create, you can evaluate, you can demonstrate learning no matter what situation you're in. And so that Quad D is who's doing the working in Quad D? The students. And so our message to KM1 and 2 was you teach them to read, but you also have to relinquish, because sometimes we want to do a lot for the kids. We have to start building that rigor early, because that's where readiness and automaticity occurs at the foundational level. So at this time, Janetta, Ms. Greenwood, our K-12 science coordinator, will talk to us about what does it mean to be college and career ready. Let's welcome her.
Good evening. So as everyone has already stated, Dr. Beasley, Dr. Simpson, Dr. Lee, our role as secondary teachers, really we're at that point of releasing the students out into the real world. And so we really have to take up that charge, because especially if they're high school, they have 4 years left. And we want them to go out into the world being confident, knowing that they're ready. We've wrapped them, we've prepared them, we've protected them, but we've also provided them with what they need. And we know we can be confident in that because we're doing what we're supposed to do as instructors and instructional leaders. So what does it really mean